McClellan, and I have got the great pleasure of sitting with my friend Len Rossi, and we're going to talk about a lot of things. We're going to talk about his health career with his food lines and some of the health techniques that you've worked on. Also, I want to talk about his being one of the great athletes that ever participated in professional sports as well as amateur sports up in New York and all that. And let's just get into that right now. Len, it's my pleasure to see you. I'm so glad to be here.
First of all, thank you for interviewing me. Pleasure to be with you. And you asked a few questions, I'll try to answer.
Okay, well, first off, I want to talk about the sport of wrestling itself. You were a young fellow when you got into wrestling, and tell us how you got into it.
Well, way back then when I was a young man, I guess I weighed about 120 pounds, and my ambition was to get big, get bigger. And I would go to the YMCA in Utica, New York, that's where I'm from, and would work out with the weights to get bigger. And I finally did gain weight. I got to about 160 pounds. And on my way to the weight room, there was a wrestling room, and the guys would be wrestling there. I would look into the window and say, bunch of baloney. I didn't think too much about it, kept going. So the coach, his name was Eddie Zisk, about 148 pounder. He said, why don't you come over to the wrestling team? And I'm thinking to myself, this is ridiculous. I can throw him through the wall. Anyway, he got me on the mat, and I couldn't believe what he did to me. He took me down, rode me like a mule. Mm-hmm. Every time I'd get up, I'd be back down. So boom, I loved it. And I finally started working out with the team there. Finally made the team. I got to the point where he couldn't beat me. And we started wrestling against other YMCAs throughout the state of New York. And we also used to work out with occasionally with the college team at, I believe it was Colgate.
Okay.
I think it was Colgate College.
Mm-hmm.
And little by little, I did that for about 4 or 5 years. And then I went to the Army, taught some self-defense in the service.
You taught self-defense?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Very good.
And weightlifting also. And when I got back home, I wanted to become a professional wrestler. So I would go to the matches and watch them. They were just great.
Right.
Great athletes.
Who were some of the great wrestlers back then?
Oh my God. Cowboy Jack Benson was real big. Vern Gagne was real big. Luthez, of course, was one of the greatest.
He was probably the heavyweight champion at that time. He had the belt.
Exactly.
Vern Gagne had the belt too.
He did. Yukon Eric.
Yukon Eric.
There were so many, names escape me. But literally, I met in my career thousands of wrestlers, thousands. But then what we had up there were what they called smokers.
Right.
They called them smokers because women back then did not go to these places like the Elks Club and Moose Clubs. They'd be smoking, drinking beer, and what have you. And we would put on exhibitions, kind of semi-pro. And it was kind of rough because some of the guys, half drunk, they'd jump in the ring and shout at you. So you kind of fought for your life. But that was an interesting background. Then little by little, I finally got booked in a territory. They called them territories back then, in Boston, and became a professional wrestler.
Okay. Well, what was the typical month as a professional wrestler? Like you had how many matches, and you had time to work out?
Yeah, it's interesting that you asked that question. I used to be a pretty good boxing fan, and when I watched the fights, you'd hear the commentators say, my goodness, this man's had 45 fights, or 62 fights, or 12 fights. And I got to thinking, I said, I wonder how many matches I've had in my lifetime. I started figuring out, and about 6,000.
Now, it's a lot of wrestling.
Because back then, we wrestled 4 or 5 times a week. Most of our traveling was by automobile, occasional airplane, and it was a rough, tough sport. So let's assume, as most people think, that lotteries put on. Well, you take 6,000 times of being body slammed, throwing the turnbuckles, getting hit with elbows. It's a rough business.
I grew up with a twin, and we always wrestled, and it was for fun, but it was still, we were going up against one another. And then I wrestled in club sport in college. And Len, I really think there's two sports that are pure sport, and one is track, and the other one is wrestling.
Oh, exactly. Wrestling is a very, very tough, arduous sport, and you have to be in condition to do what they do on a college level and professional level also. There's quite a difference in the styles, of course. And pro wrestling, you have a lot of what they call hooks, submission holds, things of that nature. Front face locks, side head locks, knuckles. So it's a very interesting sport.
What about Chicago? Now, you got up to Chicago and played up there, and those were some big matches.
Chicago was a great wrestling territory.
Right.
You had guys like Bert Gagne, Wilbur Snyder, Dick the Bruiser. I was blessed and I was lucky I was there in Chicago. And from there we would wrestle in different states, Wisconsin, all of the Chicago area.
Indianapolis, did you ever go to Indianapolis?
I did, yeah, I did 2 or 3 times. Not real often, but I've been there 2 or 3 times. I'm trying to think of the promoter's name, and I just can't remember.
I know the Bruiser finally got it.
Yeah, the Bruiser bought the territory.
But they would wrestle like in the armories and at Victory Field occasionally, because my parents would take us out there to them.
But here in Tennessee, Nashville, I think, was the longest lived live contest, not contest, but show in Tennessee, 20, 30 years.
Now, who had that territory?
In Tennessee?
Right.
His name was Nick Gulas.
Nick Gulas. He also did Memphis, and didn't he do Kentucky too?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Tennessee, Mississippi, parts of Alabama, Kentucky. It was one of the biggest territories in the nation.
Right. Well, that brings me up to this, Len. You know, to do those things, and you know, I see you today, and you look terrific.
Oh, thank you.
You have to stay in great shape.
Yes,
And
you do.
when did you get into, you did some health sciences as well, you body, tell me about your health, when did you get into the health business?
Well, in 1972, I was involved in a very serious car wreck. In fact, we left Nashville, we were headed for Tupelo, Mississippi. And I was a passenger in the car, I was not driving.
Is this going to a
match in Tupelo, Friday night. December 8th. I remember because it was like Pearl Harbor.
Right.
Probably not that year. But I was involved in a very serious car wreck, and I'm blessed. The Lord has blessed me because 3 were killed, but I was hurt pretty bad. And what happened, my injuries started healing fine, but I went through a big physiological and psychological change because I had 2 kids to raise, had no formal education at that time, no trade whatsoever. All I knew was wrestling.
Right.
And I was worried, how am I going to raise my family? How am I going to take care of my kids? And I started dissipating, drinking heavily, getting going out of control. I became very ill, apart from my injuries, developed severe intestinal problems, and I was out one Sunday, riding my bicycle, and I became very ill, cramping.
Len, how old were you about that time?
Probably about 40.
Okay.
Yeah.
A young man?
Yeah, I still had maybe 4 or 5 good years in the wrestling business had that not happened. But anyway, I hemorrhaged from the rectum and almost passed out. And this is strange how things happen in life. A man came into my room and he closed the door. He said, "Len, you don't know me." He said, "But I know who you are." He said, "I've seen you on TV all these years." He said, "I read all your reports, and I'm here to tell you, you do not have a life-threatening situation." He said, "This can be corrected with," he didn't use the word nutrition, he said diet, with diet and medicine. And before you decide, read this pamphlets. He gave me 2 pamphlets. I think the doctor's name was Dr. Neil Painter and Dr. Dennis Burke, two doctors at that time. And it was all about their epidemiological studies in Africa. So that's when my God walked into the room, boom, woke me up. I So I love this. This sounds great. Helping people, healing yourself. I got out of the hospital and I became total vegetarian. I'm not now, but I did then. And I started feeling better and better. And then, in my old age, I went back to school. I enrolled at Belmont University here in Nashville, studied nutrition. And I did a 4-year study course out of England, distance studying, from a naturopathic doctorate degree. I did a 2-year study course out of Colorado, once again distance studying, and got my certified nutrition degree. And all my examinations were proctored at Belmont. So, little by little, we opened our store. We saw an ad in the paper, store for sale in Brentwood, $10,000. I can't remember the lady's name. Well, I didn't have 10,000 cents, let alone dollars. You know,
Right,
working.
right.
So we went to the bank, told them our sad story, borrowed $10,000 and bought the new business. Then luckily, I got a job in a restaurant office as a matchmaker, booker, commentator,
Right.
and I was getting paid for doing that. And little by little, we got involved in the health food store business. And we started helping people get well with their various problems. And that's what we do now. And what we like to do, my wife Jeanie, she's has a master's degree in biology.
Right.
She uses a computerized machine that she can test people with her machine.
Len, you spoke earlier about Jeanie and some of the things that she does, like with the fingertip, with you know, the needles and all that, and some of the things that are diagnostic program. We do have a segment with her. Tell us something about that we can look forward to listening to.
Well, she's great. She's great at doing that. It's called biomeridian screening. It's computerized. It's not needles really, but the person holds a rod in her hand, and she'll use a probe, an FDA-approved probe, and she'll test 58 different acupuncture exit points. It gives you a reading of what's out of balance, and it's very, very good.
Okay, well, cool. Well, we've got a segment that we're going to have with Jeanie, and I'm going to go ahead and you introduce it to us.
Okay, Jeanie, good luck.
Well, I'm a registered licensed medical technologist. Graduated from Baptist Hospital School of Laboratory Medicine. When I first met Len, that's when I had already had a budding interest in natural health. And when I met him, it just seemed like it'd be a natural thing to do. What these are the acupuncture meridian exit points. And there's measurable electricity like energy that can be detected at these points. And we can take these readings and compare them to different remedies and supplements and that kind of thing, and see what will balance out of balance meridians. It's really fantastic, and it gives the client a really in-depth analysis of what's going on in their body.
We recommend, we don't prescribe.
Right.
Doctors prescribe. We make suggestions, recommendations. And if people follow the recommendations, in most cases, it's amazing the results that they get. We work with cancer patients, heart disease, high blood pressure, you name the health problem. And no one can argue the fact that proper nutrition is impossible to hurt any disease. Can't hurt it, but it can help.
Right.
And see, the problem nowadays, well, always has been really, people can't correlate how nutrition, the proper nutrition, relates to illness. Most of them are looking for the big bad germ, the big bug. But like I mentioned to somebody the other day, nobody in this country or in the world, John, goes to bed healthy and wakes up with a bad heart.
Right.
Nobody goes to bed healthy and wakes up with cancer. Nobody goes to bed and wakes up with diabetes. These are called degenerative diseases because of lifestyle. And they tend to take 10, 15, 20 years to manifest itself.
Right.
And with some people, they're blessed, good genetic makeup, they don't have a problem. But a lot of people do have problems. So with proper nutrition, with proper herbal supplements, vitamin supplements, you heal the body, and the body heals itself.
Right. Hey, Len, I've got a terrific idea. What I think would be great is if anybody out there, if you would just place a question, on the Facebook or wherever you find this, get it back to us. Why don't we get together once a month and maybe answer some of the questions of some health problems that people have. What do you think about that?
I'll be happy to do that, but I want people to understand also that I'm not a medical doctor.
Well, right, of course not, right.
We do not treat any disease,
Right.
we treat the person.
Right.
Yeah. And then, see, here's the thing that's bad about natural eating.
Right.
Okay? It's very hard to get a compliance from a client.
Mm-hmm.
When you or me, we start telling a client, don't do this, don't. They don't want to hear it. They want the magic bucket, the prescription.
Right.
But the body has to heal itself with the proper environment, with the proper food. If you buy a car and spend $30,000, $40,000 nowadays for a car,
Right.
people will read the pamphlet. Okay, high test gasoline only, 10 nuggets 30 oil. That's what they do.
Mm-hmm.
They take better care of their cars.
And then they take care of
But in here,
Oh, yeah.
in here it's anything.
Right, yeah.
So that's
it's a complete lifestyle change.
Of course.
But that would also give me an opportunity to visit with you once a month and talk about professional wrestling as well.
Well, that'd be great.
Yeah.
And for people who are watching, we do consultations, of
Right.
course.
Yeah, tell us about your business.
Well, we offer consultation,
Right.
probably charge for that.
Of course.
And my wife, Jeanie, as I mentioned earlier, does the bomb reading computerized screening.
Mhm.
And we have our own brand of vitamins, which makes us unique.
I see the Len Rossi vitamin pack.
Yeah. And we've been with the people who make our product for approximately 35 years.
Okay, so you know
Top
these
quality.
things.
They use good manufacturing practices, GMPs, FDA approved and all that. And that's what we're proud of.
That sounds great. You should be. Len, you've got a well-known and well-established as well as respected name, throughout Nashville, and some of the other people that I know that have also come to the Len Rossi Facebook page, and it's with great pride that you and I are friends. I'm very proud of that. And I look forward to coming back out here and talking more about the health situations and some of the things that we can do to improve our lifestyles, as well as what's going on in professional wrestling and
Sure.
Some of the great path that where you've been and some classic matches. But I want to tell you how much I appreciate it.
Well, let me thank you for being my friend, John.
My pleasure, Len.
And I want to thank Stanley also
I do
for
too.
interviewing us.
Stanley Carr is a good guy.
He's a great young man.
Yes, he is. All right. Hey, thanks, folks. And if you do have any questions, put them on the Facebook page, and we'll have a lot of fun. And come on in and see Len as well. Now, he's got a great shop, and as you can see, he is a wonderful person, very entertaining, and he knows his stuff. So this is John McClellan for Len Rossi and Stanley Carr. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you again next month, okay?
Thank you.